Hello everyone and welcome to your Sunday night edition of the TII podcast. My name is Craig Dennett and I'm your host this evening as always on a Sunday, and it's safe to say there's plenty to talk about tonight after Rangers fell to a 1-0 defeat to Kilmarnock at lunchtime. To troll through it all, he's even written some notes for tonight, he was telling me, but to troll through it all, we've got Iain Mitchell joining me. How you doing, Iain?
I've been better, I guess. One of these games that we just kind of turn up, talk about and try and get through. But as you mentioned, there's a lot to talk about. I've took some notes, which I don't think I've ever done before. So that says a lot about how bad today was in my eyes. But yeah, we'll fill this hour quite comfortably, I think.
Yeah, I think Pete Lawrence sums this up pretty well. He says, what even is Rangers at the moment? That's where I am with this team. I think it's hard to get away from that at the moment, and it's I've spent a lot of this afternoon trying to work out where I am with them and where I thought they should be compared to where they are now. And I realised I started using them instead of we, which is probably a sign of the detachment that I've got from the team at this point in time. But look, we'll get stuck into it all. There's plenty to pick over. We'll touch a wee bit on today's game, but probably more go on to the wider issues, and the real focus, I guess, has been on Philippe Clement since the game finished. But Iain, just on the game itself, what are your overall reflections?
It's a game we've seen all too many times, sadly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't expect to turn up today and win comfortably. I hoped we would sneak a win, maybe get a penalty kind of thing. Like, I don't have a lot of faith in this team. And it really goes back at the last few weeks and months, to be honest. I remember there was a podcast that I was touring with John. It was after the Dundee League Cup game, the sort of return to Ibrox game. Yeah. And if you remember, we get quite a lot of like negative comments. People saying, "Oh, we won the game, doesn't matter," these kind of things. And we're talking about how players were individuals. There was no style of play, not a lot of faith in what we were trying to do and what we were seeing. And it's just got worse from then. You look at the Hibs game, we were lucky to win that game. The 2-0 St Johnstone game that we covered at Ibrox, again, was fine, but you're just lacking that bit of, okay, I can see what's happening here. I see the plan, I see the setup. And then you go into a game like today where there's a challenge. The pitch is a challenge. They're a physical team. We've not done too well at Rugby Park over the years, so you have that kind of anxiety hanging over you. But you give the team a bit of credit and think, right, okay, we've done well recently. Can we turn up and put a statement down, particularly after the game yesterday? Like, we need to talk about the fact that there should have been a bounce, there should have been an excitement for today, and the players thinking, right, we're back in this, let's go. And you just never got that feeling today, whether it was first half, second half. I never thought, right, we're knocking the door here, we're about to score kind of thing. Yeah, I think as a Rangers fan, that's something we've kind of become accustomed to longer term, like Rangers score goals, Rangers win games. I just didn't have that vibe about the game today at all. And obviously a sucker punch at the end. To be honest, if we'd drawn that game, I'd still be sitting here quite annoyed because that's a missed chance. Yeah, a chance for these players to stand up and do something. So to lose the game is just sickening, to be honest.
Almost felt like you could feel it coming as well. Kilmarnock hadn't really done a great deal during the game. They had a couple of dangerous crosses and stuff like that, but hadn't really done much. We hadn't done much either up the other end. 0-0 probably felt like the result that it was going to be, but it was just you could kind of feel it coming that something was going to happen. We'll come on to the goal and stuff like that in a bit. But Iain, one of the things that stuck out to me from Philippe Clement's post-match press conference was, I think he was trying to use it to defend the players. He spoke about how a lot of these players hadn't been to Rugby Park before. They didn't know how the conditions would be, and they need to understand that that's a different type of challenge to how they'd be before, and all that sort of stuff. It comes a point where you're just sick of hearing this stuff, doesn't there?
1,000%, yeah. Fair enough, a couple of players haven't played at Rugby Park before, but there's more than enough in that squad that have, and that can talk about the pitch is a bit dry. It's not exactly a hostile atmosphere. I mean, the stands are empty for the most part there, so it's not as if it's a difficult place to play environment-wise. It's just the pitch is a bit rough, and Kilmarnock are a bit of a rough team. But what other team in this league isn't? So it's a little bit of deflection, yeah, maybe, but the comments after the game, obviously we're skipping the game entirely, which I'm quite happy to do, but the comments after were just a bit annoying again. Just he mentioned that we're better in the second half. I didn't see that. He called out Casson Weir at one point for his position, which albeit it's probably true. It just felt like he was trying to fling one or two players under the bus with them.
No, I thought it was really interesting. I don't think he would have done that had that been James Tavernier. I don't think there's like any chance at all that he would have called it out. And he obviously tried to frame it as, I'm not trying to call out any one player, but the right fullback wasn't in line with the rest of the defence. And it's like, well, you wouldn't have done that had it been James Tavernier or one of the more senior players in the team.
Not at all. It's a very easy target, yeah.
When you see Casemiro and the assists that he had during the week for Holland under 21s, and you see how good he can be, and then he's getting 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, etc. It's not all lining up with what should be, and I think that probably feeds into some people's frustrations as well. In terms of, we can see it's not working. Surely Philippe Clement can see it's not working, but he's not changing the fundamentals of anything. And we'll come out. There's loads of points to delve into around, are the players just not good enough to play the system he wants, or does he just not have a system to play, or do they just not understand it? There's loads of questions around that. Thank you very much, everyone, who's commenting. I realise we're going off on tangents left, right and centre at this moment in time. We'll pull them into some sort of order, but please do send in your comments, your thoughts. We'll bring as many as we can up on the screen as we walk through this podcast, but there's so much to talk about, so much to uncover. We'll get through it all. Iain, I think as we watched the game, I don't think at any point I thought we were going to score. There was no point where I was like, right, we are creating good amount of chances. Maybe the first 50 minutes of the second half, we came out and I thought, okay, we're doing a bit more. Desser's hit the bar, and then proper hit it over. But we just don't seem to create many clear-cut chances in games. That's not just a today thing. That's a long-running thing at this moment in time. But I just felt like no matter how long we played for, we just weren't going to score a goal. Barely created anything. But I think the thing that stuck out to me most, and a few people have mentioned it in the comments. Apologies, there's so many comments coming in that I can't find it when it came in. But yesterday's result at Celtic Park, where Celtic drew 2-2 with Aberdeen, surely that's one of the biggest motivations there could be for any Rangers player when you're behind in a title race. If we are in a title race, you're behind the league leaders. You've got the chance to cut the gap back to 3 points, which over the course of a season is absolutely nothing. And then you go into a game where you know what's at stake, and then just put in the performance that they did, where there's just nothing, there's no intensity, there's no drive, there's no urgency. I think that's one of the most frustrating things. There was no urgency whatsoever. There was a 2-minute piece of play where we were passing the ball about, we were keeping possession nice enough, and then Robin Proper tries to hit a shot from 40 yards. It gets blocked by the Kilmarnock midfielder, and then they're nearly running through on goal, and it's like, what are we doing here? There's nothing coming through at that point at all. There's not.
This team has no pace in it at all. I mean, Jeffrey maybe has some pace, but that's your left back, so you need pace and attack. We don't have that. So you think, okay, some teams don't have pace. You know, it's not or you're going to lose the game if you've not got any pace. But if you've not got pace, you need technical players who can craft openings and make chances, clever movements, these kind of things. And on paper, you've got guys like Badrami, Diomande, Lawrence, Cherney. They are individually good footballers. They've had good careers. They have good first touches, good control, good technique, all these things that you'd want. But it just doesn't ever look that way to me. I put a tweet out just at half-time kind of thing saying it looks like we're trying to do the right thing at times, whether it's like the passes are playing, moving forward, but it's like a bunch of guys playing fives who have never played together. It's that sort of feeling to this team. And it's not as if we had a big game midweek away in Europe or anything like that. This was a week of training where we knew the pitch was coming. We could have trained on our version of that at the training centre.
You'd have to assume we did train on our version of it. That's the bare minimum of what can be.
It didn't look like it. There were so many missed touches and sloppy passing. And again, that's not just at this game today. That's something we've seen for weeks. It touched on our previous point. We've seen the warning signs of this kind of result coming. We've just got away with it here and there. Then, as I say, if you've not got that pace, then you're going to look a bit slow, a bit lethargic. And we did the full game. And it touches back to your previous point. We didn't look like we were going to score. So it wasn't a great shot. We didn't.
Yeah. Steve G says the team has nothing, no pace, no creativity, no defence, no attack. It's all on the manager. I actually think defensively we've been okay recently. I think that before today it was 7 clean sheets in the last 9 games, if I remember rightly. I think a lot of the problem is the attack, because the defence can keep clean sheets for as long as they can, but they're going to concede goals at times. You're not going to go through a full season, apart from maybe the 55 season when we conceded 7 or 8 goals in the full season.
Yep.
That's unheard of. You're going to concede every now and again. So 7 clean sheets out of 9 is probably slightly better than par for the defence. But the problem is we're not scoring goals and we're not creating chances. So I don't think you can't excuse how we lost that goal today defensively. That's shocking. John Souttar got all the praise in the world during the week for how he played for Scotland against Portugal. To be out-muscled in that way by Marley Watkins is almost unforgivable. It's shocking. And it's just... But you kind of expected that a little bit as well.
I get your point here, because it's spot on. If we are 2 or 3 goals ahead and that goal happens, you say, oh, that's annoying, we conceded, but we win the game. Whereas if we are so non-clinical, and not even non-clinical, we're not making chances, we're not having attacking phases back to back to back, we're not pressuring that Kilmarnock defence, then the sucker punch hurts worse than ever. Again, it's just not good enough from front to back. Attack, players, management, coaching, every part of our football club right now has to have questions over it. And the more that these kind of performances and results keep coming, the louder those voices are going to be. All I've seen on Twitter since the game is Clement out. I think we all know he's not going anywhere. He got a new contract for this exact scenario. Yet there's still going to be shouts for it. If we go up to Aberdeen and lose, that'll get louder, and it's just going to continue in this vein of form. And the big thing for me here is, in a few comments are saying it, I think you mentioned it at the start, I think we all know the players aren't good enough for what we want and what we expect as a Rangers squad, right? We're never going to get fixed in one transfer window. So fair enough, we're going to have some dodgy moments. But if you have a team that have players that you don't think are good enough, why are you playing the same style? I say style very loosely there. Why are you playing the same formation? At very least, same players that are giving us these issues back to back to back.
Yeah, it's got to be the formation thing. I still can't work out if it's just the players he's got available to him. He thinks that's the best chance we've got, or if that's what he wants to play and he's sticking to it no matter what. Either way, it's foolhardy. I don't know. I don't think there's any way around just saying, right, we're going to rock up and play the same way each and every time.
Yeah.
There was a really good description of it from Johnny McFarlane from the Rangers Review that I'm going to come on to later, around the style of manager that we've had recently. From GVB to Michael Beale to then Philippe Clement, they've all had a fairly similar approach to games, and it's not the one that's needed in Scotland in the Scottish Premiership. It's almost overthinking it, but we'll come on to that in a little bit. I wanted to pick up on your point there about we spoke about how we're going to Pittodrie in 10 days, but it feels like every time we go somewhere that is tough, somewhere that we kind of like, when you look at the fixtures, you look at it and you go, oh, we could drop points potentially there. But instead of dropping points at one of them, we're dropping points at all of them. We're dropping points at Tynecastle away, drop points at Celtic Park, drop points at Rugby Park. We go to Pittodrie in 10 days, Woes there, and you're 9 points behind Aberdeen at this stage of the season, assuming that we match results up until that point. It seems like every difficult place we go where you're like, oh, that's a tricky one, we drop points. We don't turn up. We don't pull out a surprise result. And I think the only place where I can actually think that's a bit of a surprise result that we've pulled out the bag there was Real Betis away. Outside of that, I don't think we've turned up the books, if that's the right way to say that. I don't think we've achieved anything out of what's expected of us apart from that one game. How do you feel about that? How concerning is it that when we do go to these tough places that we almost expect to drop points? Yeah,
it's a fact that if we'd went to Kilmarnock today and won 4-0, I would have been more surprised at that than what I did see. And that's shambolic. I mean, Kilmarnock, as we say, are a big physical team, whatever, but
Also a team that have been conceding goals left, right and centre.
Yeah, exactly. They're not the Kilmarnock of like last year, season before. They're not a great team. Dundee United scored 3 at them last weekend, and we don't think they're good. So yes, Kilmarnock play a slightly different way, and McInnes does set up slightly differently to us. But with those technical players we've got, we should be able to just pass around them, make chances, batter the door down kind of thing, and get a couple of goals. It's so easy to say that, but you just don't see it. And your point's spot on. We don't win difficult games. If we're playing at Ibrox against most of the league advances quite comfortably, because we'll have so much of the ball that we'll have those individual moments, like St Johnstone game recently. Tierney gets 2 goals. If he hadn't turned up that night, nobody else is on form. We might have been struggling. Yeah. We've been bailed out by Tav over the years, not this season at all, before anyone comes in at me for that. But the Dessers thing, if Dessers is off the ball, off the pace, which he was today, again, terrible for me from start to finish. But when he has those games...
I thought Dessers was off the pace, but then when you saw the comparison with Igaman, I thought Dessers offered more. Just in terms of troubling their defence. Yes, there was plenty of times where he should have been across the front post and he should have been more on his toes and he can do better control and stuff. But I thought he heard his name mentioned more. I really like Hamza Igaman as a prospect, but I thought any attacking threat or the little attacking threat that we had at that point was kind of diminished when Igamani came on.
But this feeds into that same problem. So Clements Comments, just to take them directly from him, he said that we were off at the first half, we were poor. Why is he then set up the exact same players in the exact same way in the second half when it's not working? Gave that 20, 30 minutes and it's just like for like. You know, it's players coming on, like Dowell coming on for Lawrence, Igamani coming on for Dessers, Raskin for Barron. It's the exact same type of player in the exact same role, which isn't working. So why are we continuing with that nonsense? Like, as I said, Dessers was poor today. I don't think he was good at all. But I would just put Igamani on with him just to ask the Kilmarnock defence something different. Play a 4-4-2 for 20 minutes. If you do these things and change these things and we still don't get a win, at least you can say, well, the manager's tried something. We've got no players that he wants.
A few comments, Ian, agreeing with you. Dado Purzo Blue Boots says 2 up front on a 4-4-2 system. Jim Back says there should be 2 up front from the start. I just can't see it happening. I think we're too far down the road with these the 3 up front and the two wide forwards. That it's just not something that you see at all. We've maybe seen it once. I can't remember what game it was, but we've maybe seen it once where he kept Dessers on and he brought on Igaman. But it still means the second striker goes out wide. It doesn't mean that...
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Igamani came on at Ibrox to play out wide left for 10 minutes and then Dessers went off and they swapped back over. So it's not a formation change that I've ever seen or noticed happen. I mean, as you know, I'm big on like 3-5-2s and different shapes and formations, and we are the easiest team to scout. Like, I can tell your next 3, 4, 5 lineups, injury dependent. It's just that same team we saw today. Same style, same... Let's hope Tav puts a good cross in. Let's hope Dessers has his shooting boots on. These kind of things that if they don't, it goes to pop straight away. So,
how much do injuries play a part in this? I'm at that stage now where I'm not willing to accept that that's a ready excuse. But how much, if we take a step back and the cold out today, how much are injuries playing a part?
I don't think there's anyone who could come back injured and change what we're seeing. To be honest, Matondo's not the answer. Will never be. Nope. Danilo, I've always liked Danilo. I like the idea of Danilo probably more than I like the actual what I've seen from Danilo. So does he play that game today and get 2, 3, 4 goals? I wouldn't say so. But again, Dessers was poor. But you touched on it yourself. He's not been missing chances today. He's just not been involved enough for me. He's not been holding the ball up. He's not been laying it off. These kind of things. Yeah, it's not as if he's been like, oh, he missed that one, he's put that one over the bar, he's put that one wide, good save here, good save there. It's none of that. So I don't think a striker coming in fixes everything suddenly. Cortez is the one I was quite excited about, and he gave us something different on that side. But again, we've not seen much to like warrant that opinion. And then defence wise, I can't think of anyone we're missing. Ridvan, but I'd still play Jeffy. So.
Still play Jeff.
I don't think there's no excuse about injuries anymore for me. It's just on paper, our 11 players are better than the other 11 99% of the time in the league. We don't see it that way. It's just individual moments, individual pieces of play that get us goals. It's never a team goal. It's never a well-worked play. It's never a set-piece goal. None of these things exist in Rangers. and yet we see other teams do this to us. So
yeah, we've spoken a lot about the performance and stuff today already. Immediately after the game, the focus turned on to Philippe Clement, and it seemed in a big way. It wasn't just there's a few people voicing concerns and other people are defending him. It felt like a bit of a turning point. I think I was trying to remember what's the most suitable example. Gerrard against Hearts pre-COVID.
sure,
Maybe lockdown, kind of where it's like, right, almost everyone
Beale, when Michael Beale get beat off Aberdeen at home, 3-1 on that day.
I think that's even beyond this. I think the Michael Beale against Aberdeen was the most toxic I've ever seen. Ibrox
that still sticks in there. It was tough,
because it was bad against Motherwell the week before, but Aberdeen was the worst I think I've ever seen. So I think we're a wee bit away from that at the moment, but. In terms of the attention turning to Philippe Clement in such a big way and kind of en masse, which is really then difficult to change. How do you think that's? I don't know how to word it. Do you think that's right? Do you think it's fair?
I might get some people coming at me for this, but I think it's very fair. To be honest, we've seen these red flags for weeks. We've seen the same players making the same mistakes, and this is the thing. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that if suddenly Casemiro's starting and Igamani's starting, and these other little things that we're all moaning about, I don't think if that changes, we're suddenly a great team. But if you see the same errors from the same players and the same lack of anything progressive, and you keep going with it, like for example, Dessers is 30. He's not going to change how he plays. He's not going to suddenly get incredible. Tavernier's 33 in a couple of months. He is done. He can't run. He can't get forward. It's the things that we've been saying for months now on this pod. I mean, guys like Tom Lawrence had a good little run of play there, but that was back to kind of normality for him today. I don't know if he's carrying an injury kind of thing. And again, I'm not just trying to single out one or two players here because it is a collective effort that they're not good enough, but it's been the same issues for weeks and months in this same shape for weeks and months. And Clement is going to get hammered with that whole it'll be better October, November kind of thing. Like, I get his point at the time, and this team needs some time to build. But when he's talking today about how it's new players, it's still learning each other, it's still learning the environment, that doesn't wash anymore. Like, the transfer window shut 2 months ago now. These players have properly living here, they're comfortable, they know each other, know teammates. We see the photos in training every week of them laughing all together. It's not a bunch of strangers anymore. We need to start seeing some change. And again, it cuts back to now that Clement has got a lot of people against him. And the next bad result, that's just going to intensify and get more of a population in that sense. The only way I think he can try and save it, which I think he still can, as I said, I don't think he's getting sacked. So we just need to see progress. We need to see change, whether it's players changing, formations changing, styles, I would say changing, but there's nothing to change there just now. So a style being developed. And then it's the whole Gerrard thing. Like, it took Gerrard 3 seasons to win the league. But you saw little building blocks along the way. You saw a sudden change of, well, we were terrible, but we were okay there, and I could see what he was doing, and we we're getting closer to Celtic, closer to this. If we keep seeing the same stuff, we can't sit here and defend him. It's just not right.
I think that's the real issue for Philippe Clement at the moment, is that people are saying, we did a podcast, Kyle and the guys did a podcast on Wednesday night where it was a kind of marking Philippe Clement's first year in charge at Rangers and looking back over what's happened. We obviously got the new manager bounce from Philippe Clement, and it went really well until it didn't, until the most vital moment when it didn't. But since then, we've absolutely not recovered, and there's been no shoots of promise or signs of difference, or, like you say, things you can cling on to that are like, oh, there's a wee bit there, and just small building blocks. I think if that was the case, I think if we were seeing the baby steps, people would be on board with that. People would be. I don't know one Rangers fan who came into this season thinking we're going to go in, we're going to be really challenging for this league, and we're going to go and be there right till the end. I don't think many Rangers fans had the confidence that would be the case. But that, and the fact that Philippe Clement was given a new contract, suggests that Philippe Clement is here for the long term. Now, once the fans turn, like it feels like they've turned today, I think that your days are numbered unless you can really turn it around quickly. But I think from that perspective, most fans would have went into this season wanting to see those building blocks, wanting to see the gradual improvements, wanting to see, right, I can see what we're doing, and then next season will be when we've had the January transfer window, we've had another summer transfer window, right, let's go, let's make a real fist of this. But the fact that there's not been building blocks is a real issue. But the concern, the club obviously offered and gave Philippe Clement a new contract because they wanted to ward off this sack a manager in October. Sack manager in October, find someone else. They've then effectively got to just manage through the season without much expectation and without their own players, etc. And then you start again the next summer. Want to get out of that cycle, and that's why Philippe Clement has been given that contract. Do you think we'll manage to stay out of that cycle?
I think given how much chaos there is above like the management level, I don't see any like sackings happening anytime soon. Like I say, a lot of people are calling for him to get sacked just now. I feel like every time I turn my head to those comments, it's either Clement out or Aberdeen will batter us. So very, very positive tonight, guys. But this is what I said. If Aberdeen do beat us or we lose any game now at all, whether it's at home, away, even European games, I think we'll now start coming to it. This will just keep intensifying. So it needs to be a miraculous swing the other way. But I don't see Clement getting sacked anytime soon because of that new contract. We kind of put the thought at the time, Will said it, well, we know when things get a bit ropey in a few months' time, we won't sack him. That's not going to change kind of thing. So I think we just need, I don't want to say we need to get on with it because that goes against everything I've said so far. I'm not happy with Clement, I'm not happy with the team, so I can't then say, oh, let's just keep going kind of thing. But surely as a management sort of team, whether it's the assistants, the coaches, they need to think, right, let's radically change this now. Let's try something new, try someone new kind of thing. But whether I actually expect that to happen, deep down I don't. I just think we'll keep seeing the same thing until it gets so overwhelmingly negative and toxic that the decision has to be made kind of thing.
Yeah, I wanted to jump back to a point because I was trying to find the quote because you mentioned about Philippe Clement saying about October, November will be the time, yes. And he's made he really has, and I think we all said at the time he's made a rod for his own back there because there's no way he can predict that. It's definitely going to happen, and if it doesn't happen, then the fans have got every right to jump on his back and say, "Well, you said here it is in black and white." And so the quote that Philippe Clement had from the time, I am 200% sure we are going to be much better in October, November and December and the months after. Well, we're now at the end of October and I've not seen any change or any signs of change. How difficult is he going to find it, and how, I guess, I don't want to call him naive for saying something like that because I think he was trying to build some hope and some things about we are really working on stuff, but it's going to take a bit of time. That's probably a better way to word it than the way that he's worded it.
It's going to say that exact thing.
He's made a rod for his own back.
Yeah, it's when you put definite timescales on things. Like anyone knows this from their own work. Like if you say, "I'll have it done tomorrow," you need to have it done tomorrow, kind of thing. Like that's how life works in any field. So for him to physically state October, November time, we're here, we're living in it. None of us are happy. We're not enjoying our football just now. So it's a very easy stick to hit Clement with, and I'm sure that's probably one of his biggest regrets in terms of press conferences over the last year has been that comment, because you see at every press conference, every post-match where things don't go right, that's the first comment people ask. I think it was asked twice today in his post-match, so he'll be sick of it, but that's what happens. Again, on the comment itself, I do get it because it was a very new team, but then the flip side of that is that we're seeing guys, and I keep coming back to it, who have let us down before, letting us down again. So it's not a new team. I think as a fan base, we'd be a lot more affordable about this if it was like a team of 20 to 25-year-olds, guys who haven't played the rugby part before, in terms of like a 9-10 of your first 11 who haven't played there before, and just these guys who are going to be learning on the job kind of thing. Whereas if it's the same script with the same actors, we can't be shocked. That's why I said I'm more surprised if we won that game comfortably today than what I was watching. And we've not went through the game really, to be honest, but even just looking at some of the daft stats that I've wrote down, I mean, 3 shots on target all game. 2 of those for outside the box. Nothing in that last 20, 25 minutes. Like, how is
I
that
think
good?
two of them were from the same thing, wasn't they? Czerny, when he had that
led to the corner,
the corner, and then 2 minutes later there was another one. So outside of that, there's not. Desser's hitting the bar doesn't count as a shot on target, does it? So I can't really think of any other chances outside of that. I think the one that I thought that actually that was a nice bit of play and we were unlucky was Kieran Doyle with his fast feet in the middle of the park and then the chip over
right at the end,
over to Igaman. I thought Igaman did everything right there, to be honest, and he was just unlucky that it fell the wrong side of the post. But outside of that, I can't really think of a good chance that we created. Iain, I want to talk about. There's a lot of comments about Aberdeen's new manager, Jimmy Tulin, the difference he's made when he's come into a team that was really struggling last season. A lot of the same names are still there, but they've also made some smart recruitment decisions on the back of Miovski going. When you watch Rangers, and part of the reason I want to come on to this is because Philippe Clement says you can't change it. We basically can't change a team that quickly, and it takes time and need to gel and all that sort of stuff. This is a Philippe Clement that's had 7-8 months more than the Aberdeen manager. But on today's game and the approach, it looked pretty much like the players didn't really know what they were doing. I saw it described as woeful tactics, awful quality, physically limited, same story again and again, not better than the sum of our parts. I think that's such a big thing. You can be you can be a team of individuals that aren't the greatest, but you can work together as a team, and you can. We saw it how many times in Europe. And I see Tommy McIntyre coming into the waiting room here, so I'll add him on in a second once I finish this question. But you saw how well we've performed in Europe, where we've not been the greatest team in of individuals. We've been against teams that have spent a lot more money than us, that are much higher quality, and we've managed to beat them because we've been well drilled, we've been set up right, and we've worked well as a team. We're not seeing that at all from this, but what we are seeing in Aberdeen, it feels strange comparing ourselves to Aberdeen, and definitely not something we're ever going to make a habit of. But in terms of the new manager part of it, I think it's relevant that they've got a clear style of play, and they are a very different style of play to what they had before, and they've embedded that along with new players much more quickly than we have. Is the fact that there is a comparison like that nearby even more damning to come on in the sort of performances we're seeing?
It's got to be. Yeah, I think a big part of that links back to what you said before about how with last few managing appointments have been guys who are a bit more cautious, a bit more, right, let's get our defence sorted and then we'll worry about the attack kind of thing. Whereas if we'd got a manager who was forward thinking and didn't care so much about the defence, we won games like 5-2 and 4-1s kind of thing, suddenly these little daft errors that we saw from Suter today is not a big deal because you've scored the goals. But when you've got a manager who doesn't have an obvious style, doesn't always have an obvious way of playing, like, again, we go to every game, we watch every game. I couldn't explain how we try and play. It's not wing play, it's not counter-attacking, it's not short, sharp passing in amongst the centre of the park. It's just hoping someone does something. And you can't get away with that over the course of a season. I think that's why we're quite decent in Europe, or have been the last few years, because we have the ability to sit in and be cautious and be reserved and just sort of use Ibrox to their advantage at times kind of thing. But when it's a team who do put that low block on, a team who do sit in, which Kilmarnock are almost famed for at this point, it's the textbook thing that we struggle against time and time again, because we don't have the fast, nimble play, don't have the fast, nimble players, so we can't break it down. We, as sort of football amateurs, just look at it and not really understanding what's happening. Like, what are we trying to do here? It's just so frustrating as a fan. But we're all saying it. We've seen this time and time again now, so we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, welcome along, Tommy. Easy first question for you. We were just talking about the obviously the statement that Philippe Clement made however many months ago now, that we'll be better in October, November, we'll be better in December, and the months after that. And he said it was 200% better, he said we would be, which is an interesting commitment in itself. But we're also talking about a bit of a comparison between Philippe Clement and the fact he keeps talking about it's new players and they take time to gel and to understand, compared to Jimmy Tilleen and the players they've signed in Aberdeen, and how much their style of play has changed in such a short period of time, and the success they're seeing, as well as Philippe Clement almost making a rod for his, I think he has made the rod for his own back with the original statement, but then he's struggling against the comparison as well.
Yeah, well, good evening. Hot-footed it with my travelling and managed to get here. Yeah, absolutely. He's made a rod for his own back, and I think probably what's really driving frustration with people as well is that he's come in, got a better tune out of the squad that was there, managed to win something, fell apart when there was a chance to win the title, got into the driving seat and then fell apart, and you go, right, okay, that was the players, and then stacks it full of his own players now, and yeah, I'm sure everybody's pointed to, we're on a decent wee run, we've kept clean sheets, that's been really good. But when something really mattered, when it was publicly mattering to close the gap, this team once again doesn't turn up. And for Philippe Clement particularly, the problem is going to be, and has been, and now is, I think, people just can't quite work out what he's trying to do with this team. You watch it and you go, what exactly is the plan? And then how are you going to naturally change it inside the game? Now, I know he's still working with some players that, you know, he maybe expected to get a different level of player in, and there might have been a different level of budget and all that type of stuff, right? And he's had to work with the club to some extent. But the moment of how many times is he going to get to refresh the team and stacking it full of his own players, it's probably kind of got to that moment now. It's hard to actually work out what he's trying to get to. And then, as you say, I'm always, conscious of people speaking in second languages and all that type of stuff, right? But the referencing of things like Ross County, best week or best result, and then, some of his comments post Old Firm defeats, and then again when the chips are down, talking about new players. Well, hold on, we're in that October phase. When are people going to actually start to see, forget individual results, but when they're going to see performances and actual iteration getting better and better and better? That's what I think is probably driving most people crazy. Yeah. They're saying, I can get on board with you building something, but I'm not even seeing any sort of real progress. And pointing to clean sheets, whilst that's tangible, right, and we shouldn't walk past it, doesn't get people on board to say, I see your style here, I see where you're going with this, I see where you're driving. Add into the fact that we don't seem to be able to hire anybody in the C-suite in the boardroom, then it's a bit of a recipe for disaster. I mean, I don't know where you've got to at this point. There's so much to talk about that's going wrong. Right.
Well, I'm going to come on to that point now, because I kind of held off on that one because I knew it was one that you would be keen to talk about.
Definitely want to talk about
that. So we'll come back to Philippe Clement in a minute, but just at the start of the second half, the Union Bears held up banners. It said no chairman, no CEO, no director of football, no clue, one scapegoat. Now, I wasn't sure who the one scapegoat they were referring to was. Mismanagement of Rangers must stop, and stop now. I guess that kind of highlights, Tommy, the scale of the work that needs to be done at the club, and actually the mess that we're in and just bumbling along through.
That's a pretty good synopsis, actually. And I know, just to kind of link the two conversations, I know Philippe Clement's been faced into things that wouldn't actually be in his job description because of the state we're in, right? And that is the right phrase, right?
Well, what would you say? Sorry, I'm going to say, what would you say that he's had to face into that he wouldn't normally have to?
Well, I think some of the behind-the-scenes structural stuff and getting into areas and having to make decisions in areas where you would expect there to be a better structure. Some of those conversations at a boardroom level where you would expect the manager just to be out there concentrating on the coaching. Right, that's probably what I mean. Well, it's not probably, that's exactly what I mean, right? To the point of, you look at the club and you go, we always think about Rangers a really big job, and it is, and it will continue to be, right? But if you were looking at that from the outside, any other organisation, you'd go, the fundamental stuff that you're serving the customer isn't good, right? It's not working, and you're behind your rivals, and you can't quite see how the product's going to get better at this point in time, nor how you're going to fund the product getting better. Then you go, okay, but it's fine because there'll be a strategic plan, and I'll look upstairs and see who's on top of that. Where's the chairman? Interim. Where's your CEO? Still looking. Probably get knocked back by somebody else, but we're still in there in the hunt, and we've got consultants and all that. Okay, where's the kind of rudder here? Who's actually?
Yeah.
And I'm fair play to John Gilligan, stepping in, Rangers man, being in business. I get all that, but the word interim never gives anybody any confidence. That's the whole point. And a club with size and stature of Rangers, still looking for that CEO, still not being able to say that's the person, that's the plan, whilst also saying, yeah, the CEO coming in will probably change a lot of this and they'll put their plan in place and they'll get the structure. Well, make your mind up, because you've got a recipe for disaster here. It's already crystallising with the support. Quite rightly, people are annoyed and frustrated and angry. That's not how you should be fronting up publicly, right? We've had a lot of chopping and changing. Guys like James Bisgrove getting stepped into the job but not quite working, disappearing over the horizon, right? When are you going to just have a normal, consistent view of this club? It would be a nice thing to have, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. And then I go back to the fact that the product you're serving at the front end isn't making anybody happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, I'll come on to your thoughts on those banners in a second, but I wanted to pinpoint this comment, which really gets to the heart of the issues. Adban chewing gum, sick of seeing Tav chewing chud and acting all super slow and uncool. I feel like that cuts to the real heart of all the issues that there are at Rangers.
That's why we're here. Yep.
Well done, Derek H, for raising a smile on everybody that's on the pod.
Ian, as a fan watching those banners being unfurled, was it a message you agreed with? I don't know who the one scapegoat is, if it is Philippe Clement that they are referring to, or if it's someone else. What did you make of those banners, and the fact that it was obviously at the start of the second half, still 0-0 at that point in a game there to be won?
Yeah, they're spot on. The club is a shambles just now from top to bottom. Like, I'm not going to kid on that I know the ins and outs of how a football club works. That's not what I'm good at. But you get the feeling that there's just too much chaos from top to bottom just now, that, as Tommy says, when the results start going wrong, people start looking at why it could be going wrong. And a lot of people are blaming Clement, and I get that. I've been part of it tonight, calling out some of the things he's been doing. But if he is getting these extra tasks and roles and questions and just general things that he has to worry about, it does perhaps take away what he is doing day to day with the players. And again, that could be seen.
Sorry, Ian, to interrupt there. Just be really clear, so I'm not misquoted. I am not saying that taking on those extra duties or getting involved in them gets Philippe Clement out of what we're seeing on the pitch right now. Just to be really, really clear on that point, I'm definitely not saying that. That's a failure of the board. It's not a failure of the manager. The manager's got other failings that he has to look into in terms of the playing squad.
Exactly. No, you're spot on. My focus is always going to be on what I see on the pitch. So again, it's the same idea. If we had a full boardroom right now of chairmen, CEOs, whatever you would have in there, and we're still losing games, there's still the sack the board comments. Like, these things are still there. It's just right now there's no board to sack. So it's a slightly different conversation. But as long as we're not doing well on the pitch, there's always going to be questions about why that is. Is it the manager? Is it the funds he has available? Is it the scouting setup? Is it the physios, etc., etc., etc.? It can't be one guy's fault that we're all a bit sort of pissed off in general just now. It's the collective feeling around the club, and every loss that comes along is what hurts us the most, which is then why it sort of brings back these debates time and time again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Tommy, I wanted to bring in a tweet that I saw earlier on from Johnny McFarlane from the Rangers Review. He said, a big part of Rangers' problem is hiring managers whose core philosophy is this kind of mid-block, patient, control the ball, control the game, European style. It's overthinking Scottish football and doesn't work. It took Gerrard 3 seasons and a Celtic implosion to work it out. You need to be relentless and forward-thinking. Ange's style was a perfect fit, even if less than ideal for Europe. Rangers should have learned from Ange. Its lukewarm style will never win the title here. How much, it's not something I necessarily thought of, the trend of the style of manager and the style of play that they set up is just wrong for Scottish football but works in Europe. What's your view on that, and is that a point that you agree with?
mean, I think broadly, Johnny's got a point there. In all honesty, right? But that's I'm trying not to give you a wider philosophical answer, right? But people talk about the club should have an identity and a style. Well, that's the kind of style that they've went down. They want to control the ball. They want to be, playing at the top of the pitch. I'm not saying we've been successful at it, right? Just be really clear about that. But they want to do that. They want to have that European style because we also need to perform in Europe. Yeah, but I agree. You've got to get to Europe first, right? And the best way to do that is to win your title. And the style of play that we've predominantly played over the last couple of years has not been able to overhaul our rivals, not been able to really win lots and lots and lots. I think Steven Gerrard being tagged with just a Celtic implosion by Johnny there is incredibly unfair. I think it's not just a working it out and a Celtic implosion. I maybe take issue with that with Johnny, but certainly Steven Gerrard iterated and he understood that you had to be really robust in the Scottish game. You had to have players who could front into that. You had to be direct when you needed to, and you had to be aggressive. That doesn't mean that you need to hoof the ball, right? It just means you need to have players who can do that. And we don't have that right now. And we're trying to play a different style of football. And that comes back to some of the stuff as well. And this is where Philippe Clement will get challenged by the Rangers support, right? Which is, you're watching that, you say you've watched all the games, you've done all this type of stuff, and the type of player you've brought in, right? You start to unpick it, you go Fabio Silva here. I mean, Cortez, I like. Boy's just been really unlucky with injuries and stuff like that. But bringing on the likes of Dowell, that's horses for courses as well. But are you looking at it and you're going, I can see what he's trying to do with some of this squad? Maybe not, to be brutally honest. So yeah, I think broadly, Johnny's got a point. It's the point for Rangers and Rangers fans and us as a support is, how long do we give the club and Philippe Clement to get to that point? And do we believe that they're on the track of building something that will be able to overhaul our rivals and win the title? And that's the question probably on everybody's lips tonight, driving, is he the right man? Does he have the tools? And will he be given the right level of money to reinvest in this squad to get to the point where he thinks it should get to? That's the questions.
Yeah, Iain, now let's just carry that over and ask the question that is the title of this podcast. Is this the beginning of the end for Philippe Clement at Rangers? Or do you think he can still turn it around?
It's a fun question, that, isn't it? I think he can. You think he can turn it around? I think he can turn it around, but we have to see some radical changes. And I don't think we're going to see those radical changes. So I expect he'll be gone in the coming months, which maybe is a bold statement. Obviously, new contract. I can't imagine that's going to be a very cost-effective thing to be doing as a club. But we've seen it before when a manager starts to lose the support, even at this early stage, which I don't think he has lost the support right now, but there's certainly been a big shift.
Do you think today is maybe where he's lost a lot of people, a lot more people than he had done beforehand? I felt like he had quite a lot of goodwill
100%,
from the majority, but that seems to have disappeared almost completely today.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me before today was that we all know the players aren't quite what we want them to be, and again, that's just different reasons for that, and different players are causing that. But seeing the same thing yet again, I was kind of overwhelmed and looking at Twitter after the game, seeing how many people were Clement out or sack the manager and all this kind of stuff. It seemed like it was very unanimous. And yeah, that's Twitter after the defeat. Like, we can't judge what the board are going to do from Twitter. I'm not saying that we can at all, but it gives a very
everything we see on
feeling.
Twitter doesn't mean it's absolutely certain and everybody believes it. Wow, I'm shocked to hear this.
Exactly. But it's a good sort of indication of where a lot of fans are. And then if these sort of negative results keep going, it's only going to go one way for me. If I was a betting man and having to guess if Clement's going to be here coming into the season, I'd be going no at this point. Again, I'd love to be wrong. I would be delighted if he turns it around and starts getting momentum and seeing good passes of play and this kind of stuff. But I think I've been trying to sugarcoat it for too long now. I just don't see it with him, to be brutally honest. Yeah,
Tommy, same question to you. Is it the beginning of the end for Philippe Clement? And even if it is the beginning of the end, how long do you think he'll continue to be in charge for?
It's the beginning of the end of the conversation about how much of the support was with him. I think, if I'm being cute with some of that, but I'll get right to your question. And unless there's some real horrendous results, he'll still be in the...
Let's throw in a hypothetical one. They lose at Pittodrie in 10 days' time. They go 9 points behind Aberdeen in the league.
Philippe Clement will still be the manager. I think Philippe Clement, unless he decides, will still be the manager at the Rangers at the end of this season. Pretty much no matter what type of results. It would have to be something incredible. And then it would be looked at. If it really looks like we're going to finish third, then that might be the one thing that changes it. And I think as part of that conversation, the potential resurgence of Aberdeen is going to have a big bearing on that Philippe Clement conversation. But the board have absolutely hitched their wagon to him.
Yeah.
Right? That was the whole point. The club also kind of felt that this season might be difficult. Right? I'm not saying they'd written it off, but they felt it was going to be difficult. That's why I think it'll take a hell of a lot for Philippe Clement to be given the bullet in this season. Might take stock at the end of it, but this season, I think Philippe Clement is going to be the board's choice, and they'll look to help him out in January, and then see where he can get to by the end of the season. People might
Do you
not
guys
like
think he can turn it around? As in, like, personally feeling, do you think he can fix this?
No, is my honest answer. I would like to think he could if he had. It's the balance between, do you give him more money to invest with the risk that it just stays the same, or do you just let him go at this stage? And I would be, given our current financial situation, given that if we were to let him invest and then you're going to a new manager who's going to then come in and try and overhaul it all again and want his own pot of money to reinvest, I'm on the balance of don't give him the money if it's trending towards him leaving at the end of the season. Tommy, I don't know where you are on that one.
No, I think that's pretty fair. And I'm looking at some of the comments coming in as well. And I'm, again, trying to give you an answer that gives you what I think the board are going to do and what the club are going to do. It's not always...
I think as well, Tommy, sorry to interrupt, just to put a bit of a different angle on it, because Philippe Clement is one part of the situation. When we talk about buying players, Niels Coppin has just done a big interview around the Rangers recruitment strategy and what we're doing, and he's a major part of that, who I imagine will remain consistent, and his job isn't under threat in any way, it seems. So even if Philippe Clement changes, you're still looking at Niels Coppin going, well, I still like these players, and I think these players are best suited to our system and our model and what we're trying to achieve. So where does that balance sit, I guess, in terms of investing in January, even if we're miles away from any sort of league title challenge?
Yeah, I mean, Niels Coppin, yeah, you're right. It's a related but a separate function. Niels Coppin's not going anywhere, full stop, right? Unless, again, Niels Coppin decides to go. Like you said, interview that was rolled out to show that there's progress behind the scenes. Yeah, we discussed this, I think, the other week. A lot of the things that he was talking about, you think, why weren't we already doing these things? Clubs are already ahead of that. But back to the Philippe Clement point, right? And I know it doesn't win lots of favour with people when you say, yeah, you can sack managers left, right and centre, right? Everybody can do that. But with it comes the new person, who they want to bring in, fitting into that structure, all that type of stuff, the investment, right? I thoroughly believe the club have looked at this and they've went, Philippe Clement's the man. That was the whole point of the extension. It was to kill this type of noise if things didn't go well, right? Which is, he's still the man. That's who they're wanting. That's who they believe can lead us out of a difficult moment and get us somewhere. Now, lots of people won't like hearing that, and lots of people in the comments will go, absolutely not for me. Fair enough, right? Absolutely get that. It's particularly after a result today and all the things we've spoken about not seeing progress. But he's the man in the chair. The club are going to back him. And I do think, unless there is some horrendous run of results, and we do get to that slipping into third, staying there, not looking like we're going to catch Aberdeen, right? Never mind Celtic for a moment. Then he's going to be there. And the club are going to say, right, now you get a chance to take us forward again. But that's not a happy place for anybody at the moment. I get that, right? But that's where we are. And they're going to look to back him again in January as much as they can, and then see where we end up at the end of the season. I do not think there will be buttons being pressed as we speak to say, with the board members on Zoom calls of emergency meetings saying, right, who's next on the shortlist? Get them in before January so they get a chance to engineer some moves. I definitely don't think that's happening. And then we'll see where that takes us, because it's going to be very difficult for this team to then get back on and win anybody over. I think lots of the team had lost fans anyway. Philippe Clement moved into that place where people are thinking, he's not for us, get him out. That's a really, really difficult place for this team to try and engineer a relationship back with the fans. And it's up to the team and it's up to the management to give us something to hold on to. That's it. We've done everything we can do. And the fans are rightly angry and rightly questioning everybody. Board, club, management, team, give us something to look at and get behind.
Iain, Tommy's made it quite clear that he thinks Philippe Clement is here at least until the end of the season, unless there's a terrible run of results or Philippe Clement chooses to walk away. If it's a bit of dead man's shoes kind of situation, what are there advantages to just letting him see out the season and then take stock, or is that just creating a lot more difficulties than we really need to?
I don't think as a club, we as a fan base even are built to handle that from an emotional point. We can't turn up and sit in third place in the league, for example, maybe 5-6 points off Aberdeen, 10-15 off Celtic, you'd imagine. We are not going to just happily plod along to Ibrox. People will start voting with their feet. People will start not buying tickets. People will start riots, essentially. It's just not going to be sustainable. Again, I get the whole point that the board have tried to cut this conversation before it even began. And we all said at the time, we'll need patience this season, but I think we all knew when these crunch moments happen, feelings take over. We can't sit and watch the same dross that we're seeing. That's why I said right at the start, if Clement watches today and takes stock and think, okay, this isn't working, I will change it. I will bring in a few other players. I will try a new shape. All these kind of things that I would love him to do, but can't see him doing. He needs to do that for me. Just speaking as an individual, what I want to see is change in the starting 11, change in the shape, all these kind of little things that he could try. And then, again, I've said it already, if he then still gets the odd result wrong or gets a loss here or there, I think as a fan base we will accept that. But if it's just still the same script here, he can't last for me. I just don't see how he does, to be honest.
Tommy, looking forward now, how do we?
Was that your attempt at positivity there? Was that your attempt at a positive? Looking forward, here we go. Right, okay.
How do we as fans pick ourselves up? I guess going forward, we've got Stoya at Ibrox on Thursday. Then get St Mirren at Ibrox next Sunday. How do we pick ourselves up and back the team, or is it up to the team to pick us up?
Rangers fans will do what we always do. We'll turn up numbers, pack it to the rafters, be ready to back the team. But it's this team that needs to give us something. Right? I mean, most, if not the majority, I think most and the majority means the same thing, doesn't it? But the majority of people, right, sound like they've had enough of this team, right? And there's core players in there that have been around for a long time and all that kind of stuff, and players that have come in, you don't think it's going to work, and squad players that are coming off the bench, you think, why are you even getting a jersey? Give it to somebody younger, right? Whatever, right? But tickets have been purchased. People will be there for Stoya. They'll be there to roar on because it's about the badge for them. It's not about the guy inside it. It's the badge. And that's what people turn up for. They turn up for everything that Rangers are about, everything that we've stood for, everything we intend to stand for. That's who the support are, right? To a person. So there'll be no issues with that whatsoever. What this team need to do is, and what this manager needs to do is, find something, particularly early in that game, to give us something to get behind, to give the fans a bit of belief. And then it's going to just be game by game with this team, right? As simple as that for a foreseeable period until we feel that we've either got something or there is monumental change or whatever. But it's not about the fans. The fans will get right behind the badge because that's where they always are. It's about this team doing something to illuminate that badge a wee bit more and say to the fans, come with us. We've still got something left in the tank. And then we'll see if they actually do.
Yeah, we'll see if they do. I'm not sure where my confidence levels are that will happen, but we'll see if they do. Right, well, thank you very much, Iain Ian, thank you very much, Tommy, for joining us. Thank you very much to over 500 of you who are joined us live. It's always appreciated. If you've enjoyed the content, please do drop a like on the video. It helps us out massively, and please make sure you subscribe to the TII YouTube channel as well. It means you won't miss out on any of our content going forward, and there's loads of that between our regular podcast through to live match reactions from the gantry at Ibrox as well. So there's loads coming up over the course of the season, so make sure you don't miss out on any of that. And if you're listening to us on audio platforms, you can catch us there as well. Spotify, Apple Music, all the usual places for that. But thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Until next time, goodbye.